All right, everybody, welcome back to the show. Pressure is building today inside the Capitol building as Thomas Massie, Khanna, and Marjorie Taylor Greene hosted an explosive press conference with a bunch of Jeffery Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell's victims in front of the Capitol today. We have all the latest updates on that. We'll be showing you guys some clips from the press conference, which was hosted in front of the entire national press, major event. And also, we are going to talk about the president's response to this press conference, as well as where this pressure that has been built will potentially lead us to in terms of transparency and justice for all the victims. So all of that and more on the Quest for Clarity podcast.
Americanism, not globalism.
I am not a slave. I am a free citizen.
There should be no Federal Reserve system.
Only America first.
End all of these wars. America is trying to play empire. We want everything released, and you're actively covering it up. It's not America first to be pushing our influence in areas where it shouldn't be. We're run by people that don't understand what they're doing and don't understand the ramifications of the policies they're enacting. That's an incredibly dangerous situation. All right, everybody, before we begin, if you wouldn't mind going right down below and hitting like and subscribe on this video, I really would appreciate it. Also, if you could head over to my Instagram, X, and Spotify accounts and hit follow over there, it really would help me out, and I'd really appreciate it. But let's get right into the news. So as I just said, Thomas Massie and Khanna and Marjorie Taylor Greene hosted a press conference today outside the Capitol with a bunch of survivors, abuse survivors of Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. And this was hosted in front of the entire national press. Hundreds of people were in attendance. There were, of course, protesters in the background protesting for transparency and the release of these files. And pressure seems to be building behind Thomas Massie and Khanna's longtime efforts at this point to finally get some transparency for the Epstein files and get everything released to the public. So this press conference came as a follow-up to Thomas Massie and Khanna's effort. They've been doing this for a couple months now, since the original Epstein scandal a couple months ago, when we were all told that this was a hoax and to move on. But Thomas Massie and Khanna, a Republican and a Democrat, who are seemingly the only two principled people in the House, really. I mean, of course, there's Marjorie Taylor Greene, who joined them, and there's some other people backing them. But these guys, who aren't House leadership, are doing more leading than Mike Johnson or Hakeem Jeffries or anyone in Congress has ever done. And they are actually looking to finally get to the bottom of one of the biggest scandals, if it were to ever get released, in American history. That the most powerful people in our society were all connected to a giant ring of people exploiting minors, young women, and for some reason it seems that there's only two people in Congress who deeply care about this. And the fact that there's only two people as outspoken as they are is deeply troubling, and it speaks to the low levels of morality that our leaders have. But anyways, so they have been trying to get this. They've been trying to force a vote, essentially, is what they've been trying to do for the past couple months, to force a vote into Congress to release all these files. And Mike Johnson at every turn has been trying to block all their efforts. He called the House into recess early at the beginning of August. And he said this was because he had to get back home to his constituents, but turns out his constituents actually live in Israel because that's where all the House Republicans shipped off to as soon as recess hit. They were all on a congressional Israel trip, I'm sure 100% paid by AIPAC. Anyways, obviously our guys have their priorities straight. They prioritize another country over justice for abuse victims in their own country that they supposedly represent. Anyways, but yes, Thomas Massie and Khanna have been consistently pressing on this issue, and they've gotten support from people like Marjorie Taylor Greene, and now a couple more Republicans in the House. And they've had some backing from some House Democrats who've signed on to their attempted bills. But they've really never gotten anywhere until today, where pressure seems to be hitting a boiling point in the House. They're getting a lot more support than they have been. Some people are backing them. Of course, we saw Marjorie Taylor Greene in the press conference today. And I want to just show a couple clips from that press conference because it was very powerful. Let's show the first clip. This is the introductions from Khanna, Thomas Massie, and Marjorie Taylor Greene. Just a couple snippets from all three of those guys. Let's take a look.
So we gather here on the steps of the Capitol to confront these corrupt forces. Today we stand with survivors. We stand against big money. We stand to protect America's children. That is really what this is about.
I hope my colleagues are watching this press conference. I want them to think, what if this was your sister? What if this was your daughter? When these survivors speak, the Washington establishment is asking the American public to believe something that is not believable. They're asking you to believe that two individuals created hundreds of victims and they acted alone. I think it's shameful that this has been called a hoax. Hopefully today we can clear that up. This is not a hoax. This is real. There are real survivors. There are real victims to this criminal enterprise. And the perpetrators are being protected because they're rich and powerful and political donors to the establishment here in Washington, D.C.
The shame does not fall on these brave, courageous women. The shame falls on every single person that coldly turned a blind eye to their abuse. The shame falls on every single person that enabled it. The shame falls on every single person that took money to continue it. And the shame falls on the people in power over the past several decades that protected the monster, Jeffery Epstein, and his cabal that continued a nightmare. Those people deserve the shame.
All right, so there we have what actual bipartisanship looks like. No, this is actual bipartisanship where they can forget about all their other pointless differences because all of them look pointless when it comes to justice for abuse victims. But that was, of course, very powerful statements. These are people on all sides of the political aisle. You have Bernie Sanders progressives, a libertarian, and a hardcore MAGA supporter in Marjorie Taylor Greene, all coming together for like the obvious reason of we need justice for these people. And saying that it's a hoax is pathetic because tell that to all these women's faces, all these women's faces. It's not a hoax. Everyone knows it's not a hoax. We were told by these people in this administration for years that it's not a hoax because they were the ones leading the online efforts to get to the bottom of this. So don't switch on us now. I saw a clip earlier that I saw something on Twitter earlier of, in order for this to actually be a hoax, then you have to tell me that Donald Trump Jr. and J.D. Vance and Kash Patel all thought it was a hoax. Because that's the only way, because they were all leading the force in public opinion of getting this stuff released. So it's all ridiculous. It makes you seriously concerned about what the priorities are. And I just want to show a couple more videos here. This was some of the testimony from the victims speaking about their experiences since their incidents, since their abuse at the hands of Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. And here's some things they had to say at the press conference today. Let's take a look.
Good morning. My name is Anushka DeGiorgio, and I stand before you today as a survivor of both Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. I want to thank Congressman Massie and Khanna for their role in putting together this very, very important bill. Every day of this journey toward healing has come at a profound cost to my mental health. But I am here. I chose to come because this bill really matters. I speak today not only in service of my own recovery from trauma inflicted by Maxwell and Epstein, but to honor the lives, the courage and sacrifices of Virginia Giuffre, Caroline Andriano, and others who could not continue.
My name is Annie Farmer, and I was 16 years old when I was flown to New Mexico to spend a weekend with Epstein and Maxwell. That same year, 1996, my sister, Maria Farmer, reported what happened to me there, along with reporting her own assault at their hands and their theft of sensitive photos of herself, of me, and our younger sister that she had taken for her work as a figurative painter. I am now 46 years old. 30 years later, we still do not know why that report wasn't properly investigated, or why Epstein and his associates were allowed to harm hundreds, if not thousands, of other girls and young women.
Our government could have saved so many women, but Jeffrey Epstein was too important and those women didn't matter. Why? Well, we matter now. We are here today, and we are speaking, and we are not going to stop speaking. Today, I stand here with the women who have really helped me to find the strength to come out and come forward to share my story for the very first time. Together, we are stronger than ever. While she may not be with us, Virginia Roberts, we will continue to use our voices to strengthen yours always. Thank you.
And of course, it's just incredibly moving. I don't know how you can't just be overwhelmed with a sense of we need some justice for these people from seeing that. And that's what Marjorie Taylor Greene was saying. This is what everyone is fueled. All three of these guys, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Ro Khanna, and Thomas Massie, are all fueled by like a human emotion of like, let's get to the bottom of this, because these people obviously have faced incredible trauma. But it seems like people like Mike Johnson, it's just like business as usual. Like, this is where it makes you think politicians just aren't even human, because they don't even seem to have human responses to this stuff. It's not just, this is an example of this exact same problem with all these other issues, where you bring up like the bombing of children in some faraway country, and they just act like stone face, no emotion, can't think of anything that the only thing that they get excited about or interested in is how much we're increasing the spending on this year and how much money their donors are going to make. That's the only thing that they're truly invested in. Not like, getting justice for abuse victims or stopping a child from being bombed in Gaza. But it's good to see that at least a couple of our congressmen and women finally have some priorities straight that actually represent the interests of the people that they're supposed to be representing. So that's at least good to see. But moving on, we then got a response from Donald Trump, who was meeting with the president of Poland, and he gave his response and once again reiterated his theory about the whole situation, that this is all a hoax from the Democrats. It's an Obama-Clinton Democrat hoax. So let's just let Donald Trump explain what his thoughts are on this press conference.
So this is a Democrat hoax that never ends. It reminds me a little of the Kennedy situation. We gave him everything over and over again, more and more and more, and nobody's ever satisfied. From what I understand, I could check, but from what I understand, thousands of pages of documents have been given. But it's really a Democrat hoax, because they're trying to get people to talk about something that's totally irrelevant to the success that we've had as a nation since I've been president.
Now, all of this claim that this is a hoax is getting deeply concerning, because, well, we just saw a press conference with what looked like a couple dozen victims. We see the pressure building now in the House. We've seen the pressure building in the public among the population for years at this point, largely thanks to people in Trump's administration building that pressure by trying to get to the bottom of this. But this is getting ridiculous, because it's at least if they were just to acknowledge that, like, yes, we built this all up and now we're telling you there's nothing, and now we're just expecting you to forget everything you've heard for the last 4 years. If they were just to acknowledge that and come out and say it, that would be more respectable, because at least then they're being honest in their lies. But what they're doing now is, after 4 years of constantly going on podcast after podcast and Sunday show after Sunday show and saying that we need to get to the bottom of this, and we need to find out all the victims, we need to get a list out, get the client list, arrest all these powerful people that have been abusing these underage women because of with Jeffrey Epstein. After years of that, we're now just suddenly expected to snap out of it and say nothing there. It's a hoax. Obama, Clinton, Democrat hoax. And then to gaslight us to the point of insanity. It's deeply disturbing. And at least there are some people, someone like Marjorie Taylor Greene is there to show us, like, no, MAGA isn't insane for being like, what is this? because that's what all of us are thinking. What is this? What's with the drastic change? Because that's very concerning. So, and this was what else, after it came out today that Mike Johnson was going to have a non-binding resolution to release all the Epstein files, which non-binding means meaningless, waste of time, waste of taxpayer dollars to even get the vote going, because non-binding just means literally non-binding. It means nothing. And Thomas Massie wants a binding resolution to force the DOJ to release all the files. So, again, priorities. And Mike Johnson seems more interested in wasting time and voting on something that won't even happen than getting a vote on this issue and actually making it happen. So, and this press conference comes on the heels of yesterday's news that the House Oversight Committee had essentially pressured the DOJ and gotten the DOJ to release 33,000 Epstein files. And for all this talk of this is transparency, it's just so blatantly ridiculous. 33,000 files. Okay, 97% of these files were already made public. These were already public files that have been in the public for a long time. So these weren't new. 97% weren't new. And a large amount of these were redacted or there's pages and pages that are just completely blacked out. Not only that, but they're purposely, in the most insulting way, like the people who run this country hate you to the point where they're going to put out the files in the most pathetically ridiculous way, where it's 33,000 pages, but each page is like one at a time lined up in like cubic fashion. And as if they're all like technologically incompetent and they can't compress everything. They're so insulting. These people hate you. They find joy in getting you all excited. There's the breaking news headlines of Epstein files released, 33,000 Epstein files released, and then you go and click on the link, and nobody in their right mind can read 33,000 individual pages. It's absolutely insane, and the fact that we put up with it is criminal. And at this point, you can't even get yourself to where it's just an eye roll. At this point, with everything that just keeps happening, it's just a pile-on of ridiculousness after ridiculousness every single day. It's just, at this point, you can't get worked up about it. You just roll your eyes and you're like, okay. Yeah, okay, Epstein files released, sure. Yeah, until I physically have them in my hands at this point, like, I don't believe it for a second. If I see one more headline of, like, files released about Epstein or JFK or anything, like, yeah, okay, sure. It's just... You can't play this game with the American people this many times and expect there to be no backlash. They're being incredibly dangerous with everything that they keep doing with all of these scandals, because they're showing reckless disregard for the sanity, is probably the right word, of the American people, because they disrespect you to the point where they think they can make fun of you and play games with your emotions every single day, day in and day out. And the only hope at this point is that there are people like Thomas Massie and Khanna, who I disagree with a lot. I disagree with Khanna on essentially everything else. But at least there's people like him and Thomas Massie who are at least honest and not completely bought and sold and believe what they actually believe what they're saying. So that is a silver lining that we can continue to find hope in, and that's where I think I'll end it off for today. Thank you guys so much for watching, and please be sure to hit like and subscribe down below. Be sure to follow me on all my other social medias, and I'll see you guys in the next episode. Have a good day.
Americanism, not globalism.
I am not a slave. I am a free citizen.
There should be no Federal Reserve system.
Only America first.